Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Nerds4Life SuperCoach. I'm your host Peter, and I've been gone for a few weeks. I have not recorded a podcast or a video for about 4 weeks, I think it is. And the reason for that is I've been away. I've been away overseas, and then I came back, and then I got sick, and I just haven't been able to record an episode because, you always get sick on the way back from holiday. You just do. So I went away for a few weeks overseas. Couldn't record while overseas, and then when I got back I was ill, and now I'm back, and here I am, and my team has gone to shit in that time. This has been a year. This has been a year where every 50-50 choice that I have made has somehow been the wrong one. I don't know what it is. It's just been a season for me. And I've got a lot of injuries at the moment. I've got a shitload. But before we go into that, I do want to talk about what's coming up in the show. We're going to be talking about some of the injuries and suspensions and who to bring in if you've got these guys. And as you can see on the screen, I've got quite a few of them. I'll also be going through my very, very early 2025 watch list because that's what I'm waiting for this year. I want this week to just be done and dusted. I'm going to lose the few grand finals that I've managed to scrape through to, and I just can't wait for next year. So let's get to it. By the way, this is me. Oh, by the way, make sure to subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this on Spotify. We've also got stuff on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all of that, where I post all the news. Well, now that I'm back, I'm posting more news and updates as well as captain and vice captain picks. But this is a photo of me doing my last trade at the beach in Lesvos. Yes, I took my SuperCoach socks with me all the way to Greece, purely so I can take this photo. I got some weird ass looks. I really did. I got some weird looks as I put those socks on, was like right at the beachfront taking photos. But totally worth it. And I packed those socks specifically for this photo. So anyway, let's move on. What's happening to my internet? There we go. So we've got a lot of injury and suspension updates already. Harry Sheezel ruled out for the week, which is great. As you can see, here's my D1. We had Will Day out after he injured his shoulder. I don't have that one, but he will not be playing again in the for the home and away season. Is a chance to play final still. I saw Sam Mitchell on 360, and he mentioned that they're getting a secondary specialist to look at his shoulder. The first specialist said that surgery was not needed and Day could be back for finals. Second specialist, though, we're waiting to see what he says. So Will Day ruled out for at least your SuperCoach Grand Final if you own him. Tim English is very, very, very unlikely to play, according to reports from Bevo. I did read that on Twitter, so unfortunately, Tim English owners, you might have to trade him away if you have a trade. I don't. So that's one that we might be ruling out. Lloyd Meek. Now, this is one that is just started circling on Twitter. There is a little bit of a rumour going around that Meek was absent from training due to illness. Could still play, but also might miss. Let's see how that goes. We don't know, so we've got a question mark over his name. Kerno is actually listed as a test. Originally was meant to miss the rest of the season, but is listed as a test, so I'm looking forward to his 30 on field, but I can switch. So what I'm hoping is Kerno plays, switch Dawson and Fisher, put Kerno on the field, Fisher on the field for Sheezel, who's not playing, hoping Ridley comes back. Oh, no, he's out for the season. That's an update. Yay! I'm fucked. That's it. Dan Houston is the next one I'll talk about. He's suspended for the year and is most likely going to miss the grand final. By the way, absolutely disgusting. Maynard knocked a bloke out and ended his career and was just given a warning, and he was able to play finals and win a premiership. Dan Houston knocks a guy out and is potentially that guy's going to potentially play this week, by the way, and he is suspended for 5 weeks. It's actually the Collingwood bias is disgusting. And this is why anyone who doesn't support Collingwood despises Collingwood, because they get special treatment. I'm really glad they're missing finals this year. Honestly, fuck them. Really, genuinely, just like, fuck them. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Anyway, Houston's suspended for the rest of the year. Kerno is listed as a test, so he might come back and save my week. I do have at least 2 zeros, though, because Ridley's not coming back. He was a chance to play in the last game of the year, but obviously that has updated and he won't be playing again this season. Because Essendon are also not making finals, and probably why they've rested him for the rest of the year. English is unlikely, so I've got at least 1 0, potentially 3 zeros on my field, and that's if Caulfield plays. He probably won't play. I can't put Dowling or Brown in the... I just can't do anything. There's literally nothing I can do. So the people that are playing me in the SuperCoach Grand Final this year, congratulations on your early win. So they're the injuries and suspensions that we have. So I want to briefly talk about who to bring in. So we're going to go to players. Now, if you've got Tim English, anyone under Tim English is basically up for grabs. And there's a few players. Remember, this is for 1 week. This is for 1 week. So it doesn't matter. Anything after this week does not matter, basically. It just does not matter. So we're going to filter this in rucks. So if you've got Tim English, who to bring in, let's go. Sort by highest price. So Tim English is worth 531k. All right. If you've got cash in the bank, Tristan Cherry's obviously your number 1 choice. He's in amazing form and should have another big game. The second one is Rowan Marshall, who's actually in insane form. His 5-round average is 131, so he's only narrowly worse off. But actually, Darcy Cameron's last 5-round average is also 132.2, which is actually kind of fucked up himself. But again, if you don't have that kind of cash, they're the obvious ones. Those two are the two that you should be getting if you've got a little bit of cash in the bank. But if you don't and you need to trade down, like you've got 1 trade and you need to trade down from Tim English, then you don't have a lot of options, I'm afraid. The best option, probably this week, and you're not going to like this, is Kieran Briggs. And hear me out. Kieran Briggs has not had the best season, but one thing that is good is that if Tim English misses, because remember, you're replacing Tim English. You're replacing Tim English now with Kieran Briggs, right? So Tim English is out, Kieran Briggs plays. Kieran Briggs is playing against some random. It does not matter. Kieran Briggs could seriously score 120, 130 in this game. His highest score is 104 against the Dogs. He didn't do great in round 10, but again, he played on Tim English. Did do well last year, which was the 104. And he's actually been in okay form over the last few weeks. Has gone 148, 122, 88, 111, 86, 106. So his last 5-6 games have actually been pretty good. And now he's going up against a no-name, really, because he's not going to be going up against Tim English. Obviously, if Tim English plays, we don't have to trade away Tim English, right? Because he's playing. But I'm talking about if Tim English doesn't play and you need to make that trade so you don't score a 0, Kieran Briggs is probably the best choice for a 1-week game. The other option is, I suppose, Lloyd Meek, but with injury cloud over his name, I don't like it. Also, he's playing against Cherry, so that's not good either. I'd say the number 1 trade-in target this week, if you're needing to get rid of Tim English, is to trade down to Kieran Briggs, and that's what I would be doing this week if I had that trade. He'd be the guy that I'd be getting with 1 trade, because obviously, unless you have cash in the bank. If you have cash in the bank and you get Tristan Cherry or Rowan Marshall, you just do that. Definitely do that. But if you don't and you need to trade down, it is Kieran Briggs. Now, we've also got guys like Sheasel, Ridley, Houston out, so you need a defender. So anyone that needs a defender. Let's take a look. Highest price. If you're trading down from Sheasel, you can get anybody. If you're trading down from Ridley and Houston, things are getting a little bit messy. Now, if you're trading down from Sheasel, I'd be going, Whitfield probably has a good matchup coming up. Sinclair's been in good form. Nick Martin without Ridley has been great as well. Tom Stewart has been in really good form in the midfield too. I think he's got a good opponent. Yeah, he's got West Coast this week, so he should score well in the midfield. Nick Newman is the number one pick for me. If you could go up from Dan Houston and Jordan Ridley, I'd be going Nick Newman against St Kilda. Let's take a look at his last few games against the Saints. 144, 121, and 95. Loving it. And his last 3 games are 144, 107, and 103. Nick Newman against the Saints is definitely my number one trade in. If you have the ability to get to him. Okay, he's about 15k more than Houston, and he's 20k more than Ridley. So you are going to have to add some money to this, but if you do have that cash in the bank, Nick Newman should be your number one target this week. And if you're going down from Sheasel, I like Sinclair the most as well. I do like Sinclair, but Newman as a 1 weeker. We're talking 1 weeker. Someone that is going to score over 100 this week, most likely, and I think Nick Newman is the way to go. Carlton need to win to make finals. And St Kilda want to knock Carlton off, which means it's going to be a tight game, and I can see Nick Newman being crucial to the Blues potentially making finals. So if you're needing a defender because you've got a Houston and Ridley or a Sheasel, Nick Newman's the way to go. Hypothetically, you have Will Day, and you need to get rid of Will Day, who is the midfielder that you need to get. Let's take a quick squiz. Sorry, I forgot where everything was. Midfield. All right. Will Day. What is Will Day's price? We have to go down pretty far. Where's Will Day? Huh, did I miss him? I must have missed him. Where's Will Day? Where's Will Day? Will Day, Will Day, Will Day, Will Day. I needed price. I should have... Let's go filters. Type in day. Help if I could spell. Will Day's $413,000. Okay. Hypothetically, you need to trade down Will Day. Now, if you have money in the bank and you can trade up from Will Day, I'd be going someone against Richmond. Now, not Matt Rowell, but Anderson is not a bad shout. Tuke Miller. Richmond are just going to get... They're going to get beaten this week. They want that number one draft pick, and they looked pretty gross last week. I could see anyone from Gold Coast having a pretty good game. I don't mind it. However, Andrew Brayshaw has been on an absolute tear. Absolute tear. I just want to show you his last few games. So this is since round 17. He's gone 128, 100, 137, 137, 137, 77, and 147. His last 3 games against Port, he's scored over 100 each time. 111, 111, 134. He is in insane form. If money was not an issue, Andrew Brayshaw would be an amazing POD because he's only in 4.8% of teams. The other one is Lachie Neale in 20% of teams. However, he's playing Essendon and loves playing the Bombers. The Bombers are also done for the season. So they're not going to tag, they're not going to give a shit, they're going to get smashed, and it's going to be great to watch for a non-Essendon fan, as a non-Essendon fan. Now, his last 2 games haven't been incredible, 109 and 89, but the game before that, 198, and I remember captaining him that day too, in round 2, 2002. Pretty sure that was my Bucks weekend. That was fun. But he scored 198, captained him that day. It was a lot of fun for me. And I could just see Lachie Neale going massive. If you can't afford Andrew Brayshaw, Lachie Neale is kind of the way to go. Now, that is if they're the 2 players that I'd be getting this week, if you had the ability to do so. Another one, a slight chance to have a big game is maybe Patrick Cripps. He wants to get his Blues to a final, but I still think that Brayshaw and Neale are the better choices. Hypothetically, if you're $700 short for Lachie Neale, Patrick Cripps is a decent second pick. Now, we're talking about it. Now let's go if you don't have cash in the bank. You've only got one pit trade and you need to go down from day. God. Who do we have? Alrighty. We don't have much. You know who would be good from day? Actually? You know who'd be good from day? Callum Mills. Callum Mills. That is gross. Okay, Callum Mills hasn't had the best season. Okay, he's going to be real cheap next year. He's gone, his first 4 games, he went 55, 69, 57, 66. But scored a solid 97 against Essendon in a halfback role. And actually looked pretty good. I don't hate it. I really don't hate it as a once-off game. He's a good player. Sydney, they looked good against the Bombers. Adelaide are a little bit better of an opponent. They want to win, but it won't really make a difference because they're not going to play finals anyway. They're probably not going to go out too hard, but Sydney want to, they want to lock in that final spot in the top 4. I don't hate it. Christian Salem could be okay as well. Further down I go, it's just getting worse. No, I wouldn't be picking Harley Reid. This is just, it's not great. It's really not great. The further down I go, the worse it is getting. Yep. As a sneaky one, if you want, as a sneaky one, Andrew Gaff is playing Geelong. Okay. His last game was not great against the Cats. But is his final game. Like, he's retiring. Okay. He's probably going to be playing in the midfield all day on his final game. He scored an 84 last week against the Blues, and they got absolutely smashed. They're probably going to get beaten quite comfortably against the Cats, but the Cats don't tag. Not like they're going to tag Andrew Gaff anyway. I don't hate it. I really don't hate it. I just don't. I think, okay. Alright. Safe pick. Alright, here we go. If you need to trade down from Will Day, the safe pick is probably... It sounds gross that it's safe, but the safer pick is Callum Mills, right? Who, if he's playing in that halfback role again, should do alright. And then I'd be taking a punt on someone just going big on his final AFL game. Like Andrew Gaff. I actually picked Andrew Gaff for my draft grand final last year because he was he had a trade for my final series actually because he had everyone was speculating a trade back to Melbourne and he actually did okay. He didn't do great in the grand final. He did because my finals. So I brought him in. And since I brought him in last year, he went 86, 114, 91, 80, 89, and 84 in the grand final. We didn't play in 24. The grand final was in 23, round 23. So he's got something to play for. It's his final AFL game. I can see him giving it his all. I actually don't hate Andrew Gaff for a 1 week. Fuck it, why not? Just do it. Like if you don't, imagine you win the grand final. And by 10 points, and Andrew Gaff scored you a ton. You're going to be talking about that for a long, long time. So you know what? I'd be doing it. I'd be going Andrew Gaff. That's who I'd be doing. What do you have to lose? Honestly, what do you have to lose? And that's it, really. That's who to bring in for those injuries. I really want to get into. I've got my pen. I really want to get into my watch list for next year. So. Early. This is very early. We don't know what trades are like. We don't know, player movements, positions, pre-season, injuries, surgeries, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot going on, I know. But guess what? I'm going to give you very early who I'm looking at. These are the 3 premiums I'm seriously considering. So these are the top 3 premiums that I really am most likely picking come Team Picker in December. And that is, number 1, is Brayshaw. Now, I'm just going to go back to the players. Clear all filters. Brayshaw. So, Andrew Brayshaw. He's going to be expensive, okay? And he's probably going to be my M1. Andrew Brayshaw's last few games have been insane. He's gotten back to that primary midfield role, and it's about the time that Sarong has really dipped. Since round 15, he's got 134, 85, 128, 100, 137, 137, 77, and 147. He has been killing it. And before that, he was pretty much averaging over 100 anyway. Hasn't dropped below a 100 average. And if he has another big game this week against Port, he could finish at above 110 average in a season where everyone's kind of faded him. Honestly, I don't think that there's going to be a high ownership for Brayshaw again next year. I think that everyone's going to be talking about Sarong, and Sarong's going to be a good pick again. Don't get me wrong, but if you want to be a little bit away from the pack, I think Brayshaw is going to be a solid get. Sarong's last few games, don't get me wrong, they're good. Like, he's got a 5-round average of, what's his 5-round average? I don't know, I can't see it here, but he's got 140, 111, 102, 114, 105. It's good, but it's not Brayshaw good. Brayshaw's been insane. So for me, my number one picked player for next year, when it comes to premium midfielders, it will be Brayshaw at this point in time. Obviously, things could change. Role changes through pre-season. Injury. Hopefully not. Surgery. We don't know. We don't trades. We don't know. But hypothetically, if he's playing at Fremantle next year and he's injury-free, he's probably in my team. The next one is Christian Petrarca. Petrarca is going to be priced at what's he priced at? 103. He's going to be priced at 103, which is really discounted. He's going to be under 550k. He's going to be under 550k, and it is because of his last few games, which were pretty average. Now, this year, I owned Petrarca, and it really did hurt because I brought Petrarca in after his round 4 score. So he started the season with 108, 119, 146, 97, 140. I'm like, awesome! I'm going to bring him in for round 5, and he scored 59, 93, 94, 134, 87, 118, 85, and 64 before destroying his spleen. He's going to be very cheap next year, and he's already swimming, he's already running around again, he's starting to train, he looks okay, he's out for the season, but he should be back fit and firing for pre-season. Christian Petrarca is going to be cheap. He's going to be below 550k. This is a guy that you're basically buying in the early to mid 600k mark every year. He almost won a Brownlow last year. This is what this guy can do. Next year, Melbourne will be having a recovery season. They are going to want to bounce back. And it's probably their last year that they're going to be able to really compete in this premiership window. So I wouldn't be surprised if the window exists still. But if it does, this is the final year coming up, most likely, and I can see Christian Petrarca having a big season, and I really want to get on top of that. Now, the next player is someone else that I've actually already mentioned, and that is Will Day. Will Day is going to be super cheap. He's going to be priced at only 91.2, and that is because of his last few games. He started the season off pretty average, coming back from his injury in round 7, 8, 9 would average. Started to get in the thick of things in round 9, but it was really in round 10 where he exploded. He went on a pretty good purple patch. 142, 117, 107, 137, 100, 104, 103. And that was between rounds 10 and 17. So an 8-game stretch. Dropped just below 100 with a 92 against Freo, who are typically a restricted team, and then turned up against Collingwood and Adelaide for the next couple of weeks. Dropped off in the last 3 games, obviously the last game being an injury-affected game. So he's going to be priced at around the 500k mark next year, and you're getting a player that's probably worth 580, 600k at 500k. He's a guy that could seriously average above 100 next year. Hawthorn have made finals, or most likely are going to be playing finals this year, and I can see next year them going further in their development, and Will Day is going to be a big part of that. I could see Will Day averaging 100, 105 for the season, and that's pretty good if you're going to pick up a guy at flat 500k. He's going to be your N8 by season's end. So I really like it. They're probably the top 3 midfielders or top 3 premiums that I'm going to be midfielders that I'm going to be looking at next year. Another one I might consider is Tim Taranto. I mean, Richmond had a shit season, but Taranto's the kind of guy that, I mean, he's priced at 93, and remember last year he averaged 106. And I think it was 2019 he averaged 102. So this is the kind of guy that can average well over 100. I don't hate this pick at all. Apart from his 49 against Gold Coast at the start of the year, he then went on to score 105, 100 and 128. And then that 92 against the Saints was actually an injury-affected game. So that's even not too bad. Came back, started scoring tons again, looked pretty good, but by round 18, it just dropped off. But Richmond's season was done. He's just not having a great year. I do think he's had injuries, he's had some problems. You know, Richmond are just not what they used to be, and I think that he could bounce back. He's going to be priced at about 550, 560k, 470k, sorry, 450, 460, 470k. He's going to be around that price. He could be a decent M8 by season's end too. I can guarantee you he's not going to have a high ownership. Could average 100 for the season, and he won't be too bad. I'm considering him. I don't know. I could see that being the top 4 midfielders that I start, just purely because I think these guys will average all over 100 for the season, and you're going to get them at a discount. Except for Brayshaw, I think he'll just be my M1. Next year, the Rucks look. I mean, Tristan Cherry. Let's be honest, he's probably one of the guys that I'm really looking at. Obviously next year, but so will everybody, I suppose. He's the number 1 ruckman this season, but he will be very expensive. Gorn, those sort of guys. I think that De Koning is going to be another one that a lot of people are going to look into. I'm hoping if he's sole rucking in round 1 and Pitnet's not in the team, De Koning could be a really good start for your year. But now these are the kind of guys that we're thinking value, right? We're going to talk about value. Now they're premiums. Everyone knows what premiums to pick. Everyone looks at the guys that have been previously premiums that have gotten injured. We want to know the value picks to keep an eye out over the preseason. Now these are the guys that are returning from injury. Now I've written them down here on my phone. Bailey Smith. I think everyone knows what Bailey Smith can do in the right role. Hopefully he's not playing at the Dogs, but even if he is as a midfield forward, because he hasn't played a game this season, he will continue keeping his forward status. We're not going to have any forwards next year. Guys like Fisher, if you're going to look at, let's look at the forward line this season, right? Total points. I just want to show you something. Sam Flanders is not going to be listed as a forward next year. Isaac Heaney is not going to be listed as a forward next year. Dane Zorko is not going to be listed as a forward next year. Fisher is not going to be listed as a forward next year. Dylan Moore will be a forward, but his scoring's up and down. He's still averaging under 100. Jai Caldwell will not be listed as a forward next year. Luke Jackson probably will be, but do you really want to start Luke Jackson again? As you can see, and Isaac Rankin should have forward status still, but he also might not have forward status still. So, because he's had a lot of midfield time. That means we're going to have a serious forward shortage, even worse than this year, and Bailey Smith could be our saviour in that. Now, he's had some pretty good seasons in the past. Has averaged 76, 92 in 2020, 86 in 21, 98.6 in 2022. 23 dropped off to 80 because he went back to this outside only role, and he lost his CBAs and he just didn't have a great role. Half forward, there's a reason why he's got forward status in 24. It's because his 2023 he was just thrown in the forward line a lot. If he's got a midfield role next year at the Dogs, we're most likely starting him. Let's be honest, he's probably going to be around 400k flat because he didn't play it all this year, so his price will drop further. But also, I would very much prefer that he was at another club. and not have Bevo as his coach, so we can guarantee the position that he plays. Because who knows what position he plays with Bevo. One week he's the midfield, the next week he might be the ruckman or the fullback. We genuinely do not know. Or the sub. Or just playing VFL, like half of the Dogs All-Australian level players. The next one is Sam Doherty. Now, Doherty is an interesting one. I'm probably not starting him. He will be around the early 500k mark. He only played one game for an average of 25 because he got injured for the season. He hurt his knee. But this is the kind of guy, as a halfback, he can be very damaging. I just want to go back just to 2022. He scored 109 off that halfback role. You know, he averaged 100 flat last year, transitioning from midfield and halfback. He has averaged over 100 many times. 2017, he averaged 114. Like, that's the kind of guy that he is. 108 in 2016. Sam Doherty could be really good in that role. I did this year where I started guys like Holmes, and I started guys like Nick Martin in my midfield, knowing that they'd get DPP by round 6, and then I'd move into the half back line. I'm probably not going to do that again because it meant that my midfield was very weak for the opening few games of the season. So I probably won't do that again next year in 2025. It's an option though. I mean, if Doherty's going to be averaging 105, it's not too bad. We know what he can do. But now with guys like Nick Newman and Sard, there's a lot of guys that kind of distribute the footy out of that back line. Doherty's in his 30s now. I think he's going to be 32 next year, I think. Let's see. Sam Doherty. Let's take a look. How old is he? Oh, he's 31 this year. Yeah, he'll be 32 next year. So do we really want to put our faith in a 32-year-old in the midfield? Maybe we just wait until he actually gets... Because he's not going to be that cheap. He's going to be around 530, 540k still. So he's not going to be like ridiculously cheap. So you could put him in your... You could just like wait a little bit. He will be in the 500ks again at some point throughout the year, so you can snap him up. Look, just keep an eye at it. Keep an eye out on him. Keep an eye out on his role. If he comes out pre-season, he's banging home 130s, then maybe just pick him. Kenny Coleman. Now, this is a guy that a lot of people were circling this year at $398,000. But, unfortunately, he he got injured in round 0. And with an average of 37, he didn't play 3 games, but he will be cheaper. He'll be around that 350k mark. His grand final was insane. His final series was amazing. He was clearly the main distributor from half-back, and I have a feeling they're going to give him back that role as he goes back as he comes back from injury next year, which means someone like Zorko probably drops off out of that distributing role, and it goes back to Kitty Coleman. If that's the case, he could be seriously good at 350k off the back line. So just keep an eye out on his form and his role come the practice matches. As I said, throughout the pre-season, I will be making these updates. I update you guys regularly through the practice matches, the intra-clubs and all of that throughout the pre-season because it really can make or break your season. Clayton Oliver, I absolutely hate. I hate this one because I was one of the guys that picked him up this season. He's 404k and he's going to be priced at 83. Just like... Look, we know what he can do. We know what he can do, but he's just not had the time on ground because his fitness has been pretty average. Let's see what he can do with a full pre-season. I probably wouldn't be starting Oliver. I think Petrarca's the better pick. But keep an eye out on his pre-season. If he's going well, he's going strong, he looks really good in the practice matches, maybe you could get Oliver around the 400k mark next year and he could be a 650k player very quickly. If he's in the same kind of form as he usually is in. He's not old. If he can get his body right, he could be really good again. For me, I'm probably still picking Petrarca over him. And then, hypothetically, turns out Oliver bangs home 240s in round 1 and 2. Great. I'll just swap out Petrarca for Oliver and bank 150k. Breakouts, there are 3 players that I'm really strongly considering for... there's 4 players actually that I'm strongly considering for breakouts this year. Horn Francis, he's entering his 4th season. Has had a pretty good year actually. He's averaging... What's he's averaging? He's averaging 100 flat, which is not bad at all. Has finished quite well in rounds 21 and 22, scoring 124 and 141. The 92 is a bit of a letdown, but the guy can play. As I said, he's entering his 4th season. He's looking good. He's really brought his average up. So, like, he's averaging 100 flat this year. He averaged 63 in his first season, 77, and now 100 flat. I can really see him going massive next year, but you got to remember that guys like Rosie, Butters, Lines, Drew, they're still around. So he could break out. He could have a really good year, and that'd be great. Fantastic. I love it, but like there's a lot of mouths to feed in that Port Adelaide midfield. But I'm going to keep a serious eye on Horn Francis next year. Because I think that he could be really good next year. I think next year is his year. The other one is George Wardlaw. Now, he'll be going into his 3rd AFL season, so he's 1 year younger, but man, has he shown that he can play. This year, he's taken his game to another level. I just want to show you his scores between round 13 and 15. So he went on a 3-game average, 3 games of 114, 122, and 122. Dropped off a little bit. Just keep an eye out on this guy. I can see North Melbourne being very much improved next year, and Wardlaw will be a big part of that. It might be one season too early to jump on Wardlaw next year. I like to target guys around their 4th AFL season. But just keep an eye out on him. I think that he's going to be a pretty good player. Now, if I can spell it help. The other one is Saligo. Now, Jake Saligo as a breakout contender. Now, he'll be entering his 4th year, similar to Horn Francis. Averaged about 63 in his first season, 73, and this year he's averaged 83. He's actually somehow managed to average 10 points higher every season, which means next year he'll average around 93, 94, which is pretty good if you're picking up a guy at about 420k, which is what you're going to be picking this guy up for. Now, similar to Horn Francis, Adelaide have a lot of mouths to feed in that midfield, and his form hasn't been incredible, but it hasn't been bad either. He has shown ceilings with 146 in round 8 against Port Adelaide and 128 in round 4 against Melbourne, but he's also shown that his floor could be 56 against Brisbane. Round 118, he was probably, I'm not sure, but I reckon he was sub that day. Saligo has a lot of talent, and if Adelaide are going to be pushing for the finals, it's guys like this that need to step up. Now, Rankin's getting a lot of midfield time. You've still got Laird, though he's been playing more halfback recently. Matt Crouch is still there. Dawson's still there. Rochelle's getting more midfield time. There's a lot of mouths to feed at Adelaide, but if Adelaide are going to take that next step for finals, which is probably the expectation next year, then Saligo's going to play a big part, and let's be honest, we're going to need to see something from him, and I think that he could be really good. I probably wouldn't start him, though, myself. I think that I'd like to see it before I believe it with Saligo. I'm not as confident. So for Wardlaw and Saligo, I'm not as confident with these guys. Just keep an eye out on them. See what they're doing pre-season, see their role, see how they start the year, and you can always maybe trade down to them if need be, if they're starting to be on fire. Jason Horne-Francis, though, keep a serious eye on him because I can see him having a big year next year. The next one is for your forward lines. Mateus Philippou, who I brought in this year, and I got a couple of tons out of him before he got injured. I wasn't too upset with that. As a forward, he does not score well. He can score as low as 18. Don't pick it. If he's playing forward next year, don't pick him. But he had a really big role change. Come round 17, he was listed as a midfielder. He scored 112. I took a punt on him, and I got 112 on my field. The following week, he followed it up with 101. He then was injured for the next 2 games before coming back and scoring an 85 against Brisbane, and then he's been sick for the last couple of weeks. His 3 games as a midfielder, he's gone 112, 101, 85, and they're his last 3 games of the year. If Mateus Philippou is playing the practice matches as a midfielder, and he's listed as a forward, pick him. I could seriously see my F1 and 2 being Bailey Smith and Mateus Philippou next year. He'll be 330k-ish, approximately. Bailey Smith will be in the mid to late 300s as well, or maybe 400k. Anyway, either way, I can see them being my top 2 forwards for the season. Really, to start off, keep an eye out on his pre-season. If he's looking good, he's playing midfield, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Mateus Philippou. Now, there are 4 rookies that we already know who we're going to be picking up. We don't have to wait for draft. We already know these guys should be on your radar. Now, the first 2 names that I'm going to mention might be a little bit traumatizing for some of you. And they're actually going to be probably for Team Picker anyway, the same D7 and D8 that I actually started this year. Josh Gibcus and Zach Reed. Gibcus has just signed a contract extension with Richmond. He started the season with 150k, unfortunately doing his knee in round 1. Started the year with a 76 though in round 0. This is the kind of guy in his first season in round 20 in 2022. He averaged 53 for the year, and his highest price point was $332,000, which is more than double what his starting price is this year. Okay, he's going to be even cheaper this year next year because he didn't play 3 games. Okay. He's going to be probably around 123k, maybe 130k as a worst case. If we thought 157k was Josh Gibcus at a discount, 130k is going to be insane. It'll be his 4th AFL season technically, and I can see him having a big season because it's going to be in Richmond's backline a lot next year, which is where he plays. So hopefully he can get a run at it. If he's looking good and he's named season in round 1, which he should be because he's in our Richmond's best 22, then yeah, Josh Gibcus. The other one, as I mentioned, is Zach Reed. Just obviously keep an eye out on him. He's had an injury-plagued season again. He's played 5 seasons. He hasn't played since round 1. I know that anyone that picked him is probably not going to want to pick him again. But he's going to be basement price. He might actually be cheaper than 123k maybe. He probably won't. He'd probably still be 123k. But if we thought that was a bargain this year, then it's still a bargain next year if he plays. Just keep an eye out on his preseason. I think they're 2 very good options though. Injury prone, yes, Zach Reed is injury prone, but he could be a good loop for the year. I've captained him a few times this year. The next one is Caleb Daniel. Daniel, we know what he can do. Unfortunately, Bevo has decided to screw us over a little bit and played him in a really good role against North Melbourne, where he scored a 97. And that means that Caleb Daniel's break-even is now negative 22, and he's probably going to score that, and he'll be just over 200k for next year. Which is frustrating because it looked like he was going to be around the 170, 160 to 180k mark. But now he's going to be just over 200k, which is just annoying. So thanks again, Bevo. But he does have midfield forward status. He'll be just over 200k. I hope that he's playing for another club. If he's playing for the Dogs, I wouldn't be picking him. I wouldn't be picking him at all. I'd be staying completely clear from him. But if Caleb Daniel does make his way to another club, I will be starting him next year, regardless of his price. And, well, I mean, if he's about 250k, I'll be reluctant. If he's flat 200, I'll strongly consider him, which means my top 3 forwards for next year would be like Bailey Smith, Mateus Philippou, and Callum Daniel, which sounds disgusting, but is a serious option. The other one is Braden. The last one is Braden Campbell. Just want to Campbell. How do I spell him? Braden. Again, it would help if I could spell. When I put him on the list, he was ranked at... He was actually much lower in price. He's actually skyrocketed. This guy can play football, so just keep an eye out on him on a breakout season. If he could stop being the sub and get a good midfield role again, he could be really good. So just keep an eye out on his pre-season and his role at Sydney. But Sydney have a really good team, so he probably won't get much game. So that's it. That's my on-look for 2025. They're the guys that I'm looking at very early on this year. And I've also talked about, some players to bring in for your Supercoach Grand Finals. I hope this is helpful. I'll be back same time, same place next year. And good luck for the rest of your Grand Finals, guys. And enjoy the off-season. And make sure to give us a follow. Thank you.